The Mighty Mouse, Demetrious Johnson, has always seemed like one of the smartest people in the mixed martial arts, MMA. DJ has always been humble and easy to understand. He recently went on the Joe Rogan Experience, where he talked about everything from leaving the UFC to how he trains now. Demetrious Johnson is in the last few years of his fighting career, and they talked about that and how he sees his own path through the sport and out the other side. Starting us off, Demetrious Johnson not focused on becoming MMA GOAT. Johnson said this about his mindset: "I don't want to get lost in that, being too focused on the sport. I don't want to give in to that ego. I don't want to try to be the GOAT. You know what? We won. How do I get to the end game where our businesses thrive and do well and we can ride it out into the sunset?" He added, "So when they say, 'Man, how are you still so successful?' I didn't put all my eggs in one basket. I did, but I'm also branching out and doing lots of different things." They also talked about his plans for the rest of his MMA career. Johnson said he will fight twice next year and then see what happens after that. Mighty Mouse also said that after he stops doing MMA, he will still compete in some way, probably in submission grappling. The one flyweight world champion and the UFC's longtime color commentator talked about a lot of other things in the same podcast. Rogan and DJ both liked how one championship brought together different types of martial arts under one banner. Mighty Mouse talked about one fight that one put on and another that he was in. "We had one boxing match and it was for a WBC title. It was full-on boxing, with gloves and everything. It was a fight for the world title. One thing I like about one championship is that they keep things interesting. So when I had the chance to go there and compete, I knew I could do something fun, just like I did with Rodtang Jitmoyong." Demetrious Johnson fought Rodtang in a mixed rule super fight at 1X in March. This was before he beat Adriano Moraes and won the flyweight world title. A big part of the podcast was Johnson's negotiations leading up to that fight. Mighty Mouse explained how that fight came together. Next, Chael Sonnen lists Demetrious Johnson as one of 3 MMA GOATs. Demetrious Johnson should be near the top of a list of the best mixed martial artists of all time. For many, he is the best fighter of all time, or GOAT. Mighty Mouse has been competing at the highest level for over a decade. He has won multiple championships in some of the biggest combat sports organizations in the world, including one championship, where he is currently the undisputed flyweight world champion. In a recent episode of his Beyond the Fight show on YouTube, former 3-time title challenger Chael Sonnen talked about his top MMA fighters. Sonnen was quick to name great fighters like Georges St-Pierre and Khabib Nurmagomedov, but he also pointed out that Johnson is the only one of those names who is still fighting at an elite level. There are a couple of GOATs out there. Georges St-Pierre is mine, but you got him. Khabib Nurmagomedov is like you in a lot of ways. Most people like Demetrious Johnson. Only one of those GOATs is competing, and one just so happens to have him. When one championship comes to the United States for the first time on May 5th, Mighty Mouse will be the main attraction. DJ will defend his flyweight world title against Adriano Moraes, the man he won it from. This is the third and final fight in the trilogy. Jared Gordon ready to play the heel in dream bout with Demetrious Johnson. The monkey god Jared Gordon just won the one strawweight world title by beating Joshua Pacquiao at 164. He hopes to meet Demetrious Johnson, who has been an inspiration to him. In an interview with MMA Sucka, Gordon talked about a possible champion versus champion matchup with Mighty Mouse. He thinks he would be a great heel against Johnson's generally likable personality. Johnson, needs someone like me. He needs a heel. He needs someone who's going to push him and have a good fight, because I think he's a tough fighter for being so small. So let's see how it goes for 5 rounds after a while. Fans will definitely want to see a fight between Demetrious Johnson and Jared Gordon, but Mighty Mouse needs to finish his rivalry with Adriano Moraes this spring before he can focus on a fight with Jared Gordon. Would you like to see a one championship super fight between Demetrious Johnson and the Monkey God? Moving on, Demetrious Johnson relates to John Lineker's pain, shares why he always wears a steel cup. Like most fans, MMA legend Demetrious Johnson winced when he saw John Lineker get hit illegally in the groin during his title fight at 1 on Prime Video 3. When Hands of Stone was supposed to defend his one bantamweight title for the first time, things didn't go as planned. The 32-year-old will try to get back on track in his next fight. He almost lost after missing weight and losing his belt. Mighty Mouse recently went on Joe Rogan's podcast, The Joe Rogan Experience, where he said, "I think this time I was wearing a plastic cup, and he kicked me there, and my ass was like, yeah, never again. I'm not going to wear an effing plastic cup. I'm going to wear a steel cup, because I got kicked in the balls, kneed in the balls." When Lineker showed his broken cup after the low blow from Fabricio Andrade, many people's jaws dropped. Then Mighty Mouse said, "That's why I'm wearing it. Even now when I grapple in the gi, I still wear my cup when I grapple in the knee. Please let my opponent wear a steel cup if he or she wants to. I will make you wear a steel cup, because I can't say for sure that my kicks won't get up there. I don't want to, but things happen." The MMA GOAT debate is likely to go on forever. Georges St-Pierre, John Jones, and Demetrious Johnson, on the other hand, are always talked about. In fact, in an interview with TMZ Sports, UFC veteran John Dodson called Mighty Mouse the undisputed GOAT. To be honest, I think think he's better than John Jones, even though Jones is on my team and trains with me. I don't say this because Demetrious Johnson beat me, but he is the most well-rounded mixed martial artist the world has ever seen. Demetrious Johnson's finish over Adriano Moraes at 1 on Prime Video 1 was the highlight of the night for people all over the world. Fans are now waiting for news about his next fight, which is always a must-see event. Next up, Fabricio Andrade opened to fighting MMA legend Demetrious Johnson. Even though he has been fighting for almost 20 years, Demetrious Johnson is still one of the best. This was made clear when in August he knocked out his flyweight opponent Adriano Moraes in a fight that could have been a candidate for knockout of the year, and won his first world title. We all have to deal with father time, and Demetrious Johnson knows that his time in the cage is almost up. So every big fighter under the ONE Championship banner can't wait to get in the cage with one of the best fighters of all time based on weight. That includes Fabricio Andrade, who is the #1 contender at bantamweight. In an interview with ONE Championship, Wonderboy said that he would love to share the ring with Demetrious Johnson before he retires, but he doesn't know how they would handle the weight difference between the two. I would think about fighting him for sure. He is a legendary fighter with a long history in MMA, so the chance to fight him would be very good for my career. Fabricio Andrade's next fight will be on February 10 when he faces off against former bantamweight world champion John Hands of Stone Lineker to crown a new undisputed world champion. In the future, he may fight Demetrious Johnson if things go his way in the main event of ONE on Prime Video 7. Wonderboy already knows how he will defend his world title for the first time. I believe Stephen Lohman should fight for the belt. I've been talking about him for a long time. Stephen Lohman is currently undefeated under the ONE banner. His biggest win was at ONE on Prime Video 4 in November, which was also his most recent win. The sniper beat former world champion and true ONE legend Bibiano Fernandez by unanimous decision. Now the #3 contender Lohman is the clear opponent for whoever wins in February between Fabricio Andrade and John Lineker. As a bonus, Bilal Muhammad uses iconic Conor McGregor-Khabib Nurmagomedov image to predict potential Leon Edwards clash. UFC welterweight Bilal Muhammad hinted at a possible title fight between himself and Leon Edwards by editing the famous photo of Khabib Nurmagomedov's neck crank victory over Conor McGregor. The guy who goes by the name Remember the Name is throwing his hat into the ring after the latest news said Kamaru Usman might need hand surgery and miss his trilogy fight with Rocky at UFC 286 next year. Muhammad and Edwards are also getting more and more angry at each other after their fight last year ended in a no contest because the Brit poked Muhammad in the eye by accident. When a fan on Twitter asked about a possible fight, the welterweight fighter replied, "Soon." Fans will be upset to hear that Usman might be hurt, but it's hard to say that Bilal Muhammad doesn't deserve a first shot at the title if he's chosen to replace him. The 34-year-old is ranked 4th in the welterweight division and has won all 9 of his fights without losing. Daniel Cormier, who is in the UFC Hall of Fame, weighed in on the situation and said that he would like to see Muhammad fight Leon Edwards. DC says Muhammad's winning streak, which includes wins over Stephen Thompson and Vicente Luque, is more than enough for him to get a shot at the title. In conclusion, Demetrious Johnson may be one of the greatest fighters in the history of mixed martial arts, but he is not concerned with being labeled the GOAT. Well, that's it for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Till next time, cheers!